That was never a number one pose. For years, fans around the world believed they understood the meaning behind the signature gesture that Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara always made in photos. Whether they had just won a gold medal, stood atop a podium, or celebrated another milestone on the ice, one thing always seemed to appear in the picture: a single index finger pointed toward the sky. Most people assumed it was simple. They thought it meant number one, the best in the world, champions. But they were wrong. The real reason behind that gesture was far more personal, and somehow far more beautiful. On June 4, 2026, exactly 47 days after Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara officially retired from competitive skating, the fifth installment of the popular Ask Rikuryu series was released. The feature, which had been running annually through Nikkei Sports for 5 consecutive years, attracted more fan questions than ever before. Among hundreds of submissions, one question stood out. Why do you always raise your index finger during photos and 6-minute warm-ups? Why not make a peace sign like everyone else? When fans finally heard the answer, many had the same reaction. So that was the reason. Suddenly, every photograph they had ever seen seemed different. The meaning behind that single finger took on an entirely new life, and countless memories became even more meaningful. Before we reveal that answer, though, there's something worth thinking about first. How many rikuryu photographs have you seen over the years? Even people who don't closely follow figure skating probably saw the pair during the 2026 Milan Cortina Winter Olympics. If you watched any coverage at all, chances are you've seen that pose. The two standing side by side, sometimes one of them raising a finger, sometimes both, not a fist, not an open hand, not a peace sign. Just one finger pointing upward. Simple, confident, unmistakably rikuryu. No one knows exactly when it started. There is no official record marking the first time they did it, yet somehow it became part of their identity. It appeared on Grand Prix podiums. It appeared in kiss and cry areas. It appeared during Olympic warm-ups and exhibition performances. It showed up after victories and after disappointments. It appeared when they were healthy and when injuries threatened their careers. Even during periods when Ryuichi Kihara couldn't compete because of injuries, or when Riku Miura trained alone, that gesture remained. For years, fans tried to decode its meaning. Some believed it represented their dream of becoming the best in the world. Others thought it symbolized their determination to reach the top. Social media filled with theories. The mystery spread far beyond Japan. Figure skating fans in South Korea, China, North America, and Europe all began discussing the gesture. Eventually, the raised index finger became recognized internationally as Rikuryu's trademark. Fan artists started drawing it. Supporters copied it in photos. The pose became inseparable from their image. One of the most memorable moments came during the 2026 Winter Olympics after they captured the gold medal. During an exhibition performance, Riku subtly changed her finishing pose. Originally, the choreography ended with a raised fist. Instead, she quietly lifted a single index finger. The cameras caught it immediately. Within seconds, fans around the world began posting about it online. Some wrote that she was celebrating being number one. Others called it the perfect ending for Olympic champions. Many viewers became emotional watching it unfold. After all, this was no longer just a dream. Rikuryu had actually become Olympic gold medalists. For most people, the explanation seemed obvious. It was the number one pose. Case closed. Except it wasn't. And that is where the story takes a surprising turn. Long before the Milan Olympics, the true meaning had quietly revealed itself. The clue appeared on November 9, 2024, immediately after the free skate at the NHK Trophy. Rikuryu had delivered a strong competition overall, but a mistake during their pair spin in the free program cost them valuable points. They ultimately finished with a total score just over 209 points. As soon as they left the ice, cameras captured an interesting moment. Ryuichi raised his index finger toward Riku and appeared to say something. Later, reporters asked him what it meant. His answer surprised everyone. He explained that there had only been one major mistake in the entire program. Just one. The raised finger wasn't a symbol of being number one. It wasn't a statement about becoming world champions. It was simply a message between partners. One mistake, that's all. Pair spins rarely go wrong, so we were talking about how it became a good learning experience, Kihara explained. In that moment, the gesture had nothing to do with rankings or medals. It was communication, a private language shared by two people who understood each other without needing many words. Think about that for a moment. After an intense competition, most athletes react emotionally. Some celebrate. Some become frustrated. some focus on what they lost. Yet Kihara's instinct was different. He calmly looked at his partner and said, through a simple gesture, it was only one mistake. That small moment revealed something important about who he is, and perhaps even more importantly, who they are together. But that still leaves one question unanswered. If the finger represented one mistake at NHK Trophy, why did they continue using it everywhere else? Why during photo shoots? Why during warm-ups? Why in exhibition performances? Why did it become their signature gesture for 7 straight years? The answer would finally arrive during that June 2026 interview. And before hearing it, it's worth asking another question. Why wasn't it a peace sign? In Japan, posing with a peace sign is almost automatic. People do it in family photos, school pictures, vacation snapshots, group selfies with friends. It's practically second nature. Athletes do it all the time as well. On podiums, during celebrations, at official ceremonies, it's normal. Yet throughout their entire partnership, rikuryu never adopted the peace sign as their trademark pose, not once. And the reason may reveal something deeper about how they viewed figure skating itself. Because pair skating is unlike any other sport. It is a world built entirely around two people. If one falls, both suffer. If one makes a mistake, both pay the price. Every lift, every throw, every twist, every landing depends on complete trust. When Kihara launches Miura into the air, he must catch her. When Miura rotates above the ice, she trusts him completely. Every movement requires perfect timing, perfect understanding, perfect connection. Years of training together created a form of communication that went beyond words. On the ice, they learned to read each other through eye contact, body language, and instinct. Maybe that single finger became an extension of that language, a simple signal carrying meaning only the two of them fully understood. A peace sign represents victory, the letter V a declaration that you won, but rikuryu chose something different. One finger, one message, one connection, and perhaps that choice tells us more about their partnership than any medal ever could. To Kihara, she was not just a young skater with potential. She was someone with rare athletic ability, sharp skating instincts, and most importantly, the courage to try difficult things without fear. That fearlessness stood out to him from the beginning. During their first few months together, most of their time was spent rebuilding the basics from the ground up. Pair skating is not simply about two people performing side by side. Their bodies have to learn the same rhythm. They have to understand exactly when to shift weight, what angle to enter a lift, where to look during a landing, and how to move together without hesitation. Some of that can be explained with words, but much of it cannot. That is the hardest part of pair skating. Their coach, Bruno Marcotte, reminded them again and again that technique can be taught, but feeling has to be built by the skaters themselves. And that feeling was not created only on the ice. After practice in Oakville, Riku and Ryuichi would walk through town together. They would sit in cafes, drink coffee, and talk about that day's training. One moment they were discussing a lift that did not work. The next, they were talking about a spin where the timing felt slightly off. Then the conversation would drift into everyday life before somehow circling back to skating again. Through that endless repetition, the two slowly developed their own shared language. And a shared language is not always made of words. Sometimes it is a look, sometimes it is a facial expression, sometimes it is a small gesture only two people understand. The longer two people stay together, the richer that silent language becomes. That single raised index finger became part of rikuryu's private language, built slowly over 7 years. To understand why it mattered so much, we have to look deeper at who Riku Miura is. Riku is emotionally open. When practice does not go well, it shows on her face. When something finally works, she celebrates with her whole body. In interviews, she speaks directly and honestly. She can laugh while saying what bothers her about Ryuichi, and in the next moment, say with complete sincerity that she could not have continued without him. That emotional honesty is one of the reasons so many fans love her. Ryuichi Kihara can seem like the opposite, but in reality, he carries the same emotional depth. He simply reveals it differently. On the ice, he stays calm. Even when mistakes happen, he smiles, resets, and moves forward. But during their retirement press conference, he could not hold back his tears. In an NHK feature, his voice cracked as he spoke about his gratitude for Riku. He does not show everything immediately. He holds his emotions quietly inside until the moment becomes too important to hide them. That is Ryuichi Kihara. So why did these two people end up sharing that one simple gesture? The answer is not in their differences. It is in what they have in common. Both of them are deeply natural, honest people. Riku does not decorate her emotions, she shows them as they are. Ryuichi does not decorate his words, he says only what needs to be said. That honesty appeared in their pose too. They did not choose the peace sign, the pose everyone else naturally makes in front of a camera. They chose one finger. Nothing fancy, nothing forced, nothing dramatic, just one simple gesture, and that felt exactly like them. The pose may also have served another quiet purpose. Pair skaters live under constant pressure. Before a competition, during a performance, after the music stops, and even while waiting for scores, cameras follow everything. In those moments, the pose a skater chooses can reveal their mental state. Maybe that raised finger became a small ritual, a way of staying grounded. Way of telling each other, no matter what just happened, we are still us. Stand in front of the camera, raise one finger, return to what feels familiar. That habit may have given them a sense of calm through some of the hardest moments of their career. Between their 2023 world title and their 2024 world silver medal, Kihara faced a serious challenge with a back injury. During that period, there were fewer chances for the two to stand together in front of cameras. But when his rehab progressed and he slowly returned to the ice, fans noticed something. In one of their first photos together again, the finger was back. One fan wrote that seeing Rikuryu's index finger return was enough to bring tears. That is how powerful the gesture had become. It was no longer just a pose. It was proof that they were still there, together. Before we reach the full answer, think about this. Do you have a signature pose? Maybe something your family always does in photos. Maybe a face you make with your friends. Maybe a gesture that was never planned, but somehow became yours over time. That is how human connection works. When people spend enough time together, they begin sharing things without officially deciding them. Their breathing rhythms match. Their laughter comes at the same time. They understand each other before words are spoken. For Rikuryu, that single finger may have been born from exactly that kind of connection. On June 4, 2026, in the 5th installment of Ask Rikuryu, they finally explained the pose directly. The full article was released as premium content, so not every fan was able to read it. But almost immediately, reactions began spreading across social media. Fans wrote things like, "So that was the meaning." Others said they cried. Many simply said, "That is so Rikuryu." And from the emotion in those reactions, it was clear the answer matched the two perfectly. Now let's look back at when that pose appeared across their journey. At the 2022 Beijing Olympics, Rikuryu had been together for about 2.5 years. They stood on their first Olympic stage and finished 7th in the individual event, the best result ever for a Japanese pair at the time. In their commemorative photos, they were already raising their index fingers. They were not world champions yet. They had not won the Grand Prix final. They had not completed their historic season, but the pose was already there. That is important. They did not start doing it because they became gold medalists. They were doing it long before the gold. In the 2022-23 season, they won the Grand Prix final, the Four Continents Championships, and the World Championships, completing Japan's first-ever pairs season Grand Slam. On every podium, that finger appeared. Even after becoming world champions, the gesture did not change. It was not something they did because they won. It was something they did because it was theirs. That consistency is what gives the pose its emotional weight. Then came the difficult period from late 2023 into early 2024, when Kihara was sidelined by a lumbar stress fracture. He missed the Grand Prix series and the Japanese nationals. Riku continued training while Ryuichi focused on recovery. During that time, they rarely appeared together in public photos. But even when Kihara was rehabbing, even when he could not compete, even when he could not fully return to the ice, that finger remained. In March 2024, after their silver medal at the World Championships in Montreal, it appeared again on the podium. Then in February 2026, after winning Olympic gold in Milan Cortina, cameras captured the unforgettable moment. After the final pose, Kihara held Miura in his arms, frozen in emotion. Later, when they sat in the kiss and cry, the finger appeared naturally once again. 7 years, the same gesture, the same meaning growing deeper with time, so why not a peace sign? In the June 4 interview, Riku explained it in the most beautiful way. A peace sign uses 2 fingers. If both of them make peace signs, each person is showing 2 fingers separately, but an index finger is 1 finger. When both of them raise 1 finger, it represents 2 people becoming one. That is the heart of pair skating. 2 people moving as one body, 2 different lives creating one performance, 2 athletes becoming one team. With a peace sign, they would still feel separate. With one index finger, they could express that they were one. The moment you hear that explanation, every old photo changes. Every podium picture, every kiss and cry moment, every comeback photo, every Olympic celebration, that finger was never just saying, "We are number one." It was saying, "We are one," not a declaration of victory, a declaration of who they were together. Kihara added that they did not consciously decide on the pose from the beginning. It simply happened naturally. At some point, Riku started doing it. Ryuichi followed. Before they knew it, that pose had become rikuryu. That detail may be the most important part. They did not create a rule. They did not plan a brand. They did not sit down and decide what their signature should be. Formed naturally through time, trust, and daily life. That is exactly what makes it so powerful. In pair skating, you can practice timing, you can count beats, you can repeat lifts hundreds of times until the body remembers, but you cannot force two people to naturally do the same thing without speaking. That kind of connection can only be built through years of shared life. Think again about their days in Oakville. The same car in the morning, the same rink, the same cafe, the same grocery store. The mornings when someone forgot a coat. The evenings when baby corn was not available. The nights spent playing Mario Kart. All those ordinary memories became part of the partnership. And somewhere inside that ordinary life, one finger became their symbol. That raised index finger was the final result of 7 years spent becoming one. At their retirement press conference on April 28, 2026, Kihara said he would not be who he is without Riku, and that would not change even after skating ended. Riku said the 7 years she spent with Ryuichi were the most important years of her life. Those words and that one finger come from the same place. Two people becoming one was not just something they did during competition. It became part of their lives. Now, after retirement, they will no longer chase Olympic medals together. They will not stand on the Olympic stage again as competitors. But when we look back at the Milan exhibition, Riku's final pose feels different now. She changed the fist into an index finger. At first, it looked like a tribute to being Olympic champions, but knowing the real meaning, it feels more intimate. Maybe she was not saying, "We are the best in the world." Maybe she was quietly saying to Kihara, "Until the very end, we were one." Through victories, through losses, through injury, through comebacks, through 7 years of shared pressure and ordinary days, they kept raising the same finger. And what it meant was never about ranking. It was never only about records. It meant we are here together. Even after retirement, that does not disappear. When they appear again at future ice shows, cameras will probably find them once more. And when they stand side by side, there is a good chance that finger will appear again. Before the gold medal, after the gold medal, after retirement. That single raised index finger remains, because for 7 years, rikuryu expressed something incredibly simple and incredibly rare. Two people, one team, one story, one heart on the ice. And inside that small, quiet gesture, the entire meaning of Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara's partnership was always there. When we step back and look at the wider world of sports, we realize how powerful a pose can become. Usain Bolt had his lightning pose. Michael Jordan had his fierce celebration after a dunk. Shohei Ohtani has that calm, almost expressionless way of running the bases after a home run. Each gesture becomes more than movement. It becomes a symbol. In 1 second, it tells you who that athlete is, what they represent, and what kind of energy they bring to their sport. It becomes a language beyond words. Rikuryu's raised index finger had become that kind of symbol too, but there was one major difference. Most iconic sports poses belong to one person. Bolt's lightning pose was his. Jordan's celebration was his. Ohtani's quiet confidence belongs to him, but Rikuryu's index finger only becomes complete when both of them do it together. One person raising the finger is not the full meaning. It becomes rikuryu only when Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara stand side by side and share the same gesture. That structure itself reflects the heart of pair skating. It is not finished alone. It only becomes whole with two. The pose began gaining global recognition after their historic 2023 season, when they completed the Grand Prix final, 4 Continents Championships, and World Championships sweep. After that, media outlets around the world began featuring rikuryu more often, and in so many of those photos, the same gesture appeared, the raised index finger. International outlets began describing it as Rikuryu's signature pose. Korean figure skating fans started using the expression online. In Chinese fan communities, artists began drawing that finger into rikuryu fan art again and again. one simple gesture had crossed borders. It had become a shared language among fans around the world. But the strange thing was this: almost nobody knew what it actually meant. Most people believed it meant number one, and honestly, why wouldn't they? They were champions, they were winning, they were becoming the best pair in the world. So fans accepted that explanation without questioning it. The two themselves never went out of their way to explain it. Maybe no one had asked directly, or maybe to them, the meaning was so obvious that it did not need explaining. Inside their partnership, that finger was already understood. It was part of their world. And then on June 4, 2026, after retirement, they finally put it into words. Why did they reveal it at that moment? The answer may be simple. Because they had retired. During their competitive career, there was always another event coming. Another practice, another program, another medal to chase. Explaining the meaning of a pose was never more important than preparing for the next competition. But after retirement, they finally had time to look back. They had time to explain what rikuryu really was. The fifth edition of Ask Rikuryu became more than a fan Q&A in a way. It was two athletes carefully organizing 7 years of memories and leaving them behind in words. That series itself also mattered. Ask Rikuryu had continued for 5 years. The first edition began around the time of the 2022 Beijing Olympics, when they were not yet world champions. Through each installment, fans slowly got to see more of their real personalities. With each answer, the connection between rikuryu and their supporters grew stronger. Then, after winning Olympic gold and retiring, the fifth edition finally revealed the meaning behind the pose that had quietly followed them for years. That answer did not appear out of nowhere. It was built on 5 years of trust. When Riku explained the pose with the words, "two people becoming one," what expression did Kihara have? The article photos reportedly showed the two answering warmly and naturally. The fact that they laughed while talking about it suggests the question did not feel heavy to them. It may have felt more like, finally, someone asked. Something that had been there for 7 years was finally being said out loud. And that lightness tells us something important. The pose was never artificial. It was never dramatic. It was simply part of them. The idea of becoming one sits at the center of Rikuryu's skating philosophy. Their coach, Bruno Marcotte, often emphasized that the energy flowing between the two skaters determines everything in a performance. A technically perfect lift can be practiced hundreds of times, but if the energy between the partners does not connect, the audience feels nothing. On the other hand, even when small mistakes happen, if the connection between the two is real, the performance can still move people deeply. Marcotte understood that. That is why he valued their relationship as much as their technique. And that entire philosophy was compressed into one raised finger. To express two people becoming one without using words took 7 years, and inside those 7 years were everything. Beijing, the season Grand Slam, Kihara's injury, the silver medal in Montreal, the Olympic gold in Milan, the best moments and the hardest moments. All of it lived inside that one finger. And more than 40 days after retirement, that meaning finally became words. There is one more important point we should not miss. They kept the pose. The article title used the idea of an index finger pose they carried through everything. That word matters. To carry something through means not changing it halfway. Trends change. Media requests change. Sponsors may prefer different images. Some poses look more exciting. Some look more powerful. Some may photograph better. A peace sign might have looked more cheerful. A fist might have looked stronger. But Rikuryu never changed. For 7 years, they stayed with that one finger. Consistency is harder than it looks. Before the gold medal, after the gold medal, on days they won, on days they lost. During the winter when injury forced them away from competition, every time they stood in front of a camera, they returned to the same gesture. That consistency tells us exactly what mattered to them. Now after retirement, both Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara have shown interest in contributing to Japanese figure skating as coaches in the future. The path to becoming certified coaches through the Japanese skating system may take several years, but they have already shown the will to walk that road. And one day, when they stand in front of younger skaters, what will they teach? Of course, they will teach technique. They will teach how to train. They will teach how to survive pressure. But maybe more than anything, they will teach young pair skaters to value the time they spend with their partner. Because in pair skating, not everything can be planned. Some things only appear after years of trust. Some things are born naturally after countless ordinary days together. And those things should not be rushed. Maybe one day, those young skaters will stand in front of a camera and choose their own pose. Maybe it will be a peace sign. Maybe it will be a fist. Maybe it will be something no one understands at first. But Riku and Ryuichi will probably watch with gentle eyes, because the pose itself is not what matters most. What matters is whether that pose carries a story, just like Rikuryu's index finger did. The pose. The article title used the idea of an index finger pose they carried through everything. That word matters. To carry something through means not changing it halfway. Trends change. Media requests change. Sponsors may prefer different images. Some poses look more exciting, some look more powerful, some may photograph better. A peace sign might have looked more cheerful, a fist might have looked stronger, but Rikuryu never changed. For 7 years, they stayed with that one finger. Consistency is harder than it looks. Before the gold medal, after the gold medal, on days they won, on days they lost. During the winter when injury forced them away from competition, every time they stood in front of a camera, they returned to the same gesture. That consistency tells us exactly what mattered to them. Now, after retirement, both Riku Miura and Ryuichi Kihara have shown interest in contributing to Japanese figure skating as coaches in the future. The path to becoming certified coaches through the Japanese skating system may take several years, but they have already shown the will to walk that road. And one day, when they stand in front of younger skaters, what will they teach? Of course, they will teach technique. They will teach how to train. They will teach how to survive pressure. But maybe more than anything, they will teach young pair skaters to value the time they spend with their partner. Because in pair skating, not everything can be planned. Some things only appear after years of trust. Some things are born naturally after countless ordinary days together. And those things should not be rushed. Maybe one day, those young skaters will stand in front of a camera and choose their own pose. Maybe it will be a peace sign. Maybe it will be a fist. Maybe it will be something no one understands at first. But Riku and Ryuichi will probably watch with gentle eyes, because the pose itself is not what matters most. What matters is whether that pose carries a story, just like Rikuryu's index finger did.